welcome all of you to this forum organized by the student organization at UTG and the Nyangsane Institute. But I'm really delighted, alongside my contemporaries, to welcome all of you to the first of these organizations organized by the Nyangsane Institute here at UTG. We are delighted to have you because it's the first of its kind here. Our purpose is really simple. We are engaged with community as well as organizations like the university, such as this. We're interested in introducing certain key concepts, ideas, to help improve education at the university, and you in turn helping to put those practices in place in society. In other words, we believe that there is a strong link between the university on one hand and the community on the other. So it is going to be interactive, and we have three major speakers who will give us ideas about how to go about this interaction, how we can impact society, how you can also benefit individually from a practice such as this. So we are very excited about your presence here today. We want to inform you that this is going to be as informal as possible. Engage us, ask us questions, let us interact, and hopefully at the end of the day, we would have had a very successful operation. Let me just say a little bit about the Institute. The Institute was formed about 3 years ago. It was named after two great Gambians who lived in the US. They were professors, Professor Suleiman Nyang, who passed away a few years ago. He taught at Howard University and made a very big impact as a political scientist. He was very well known. Professor Lamin Sane, also taught at Yale University in the United States. He too had a very major impact on his life and the life that he lived as a professor. He did a great deal of work on religion, identity, and so forth and so on. They both passed, and we believe that it was important for us as an institution to name the institute after them. So we call it the Nyangsane Institute. They have written extensively on Gambia. They have done excellent work throughout their careers. Unfortunately, they are now past, but their work continues to influence a lot of people. With that very short introduction, let me move over to introduce our speakers. Our speakers are Jainaba Jallo, Khadijat Jallo. Khadijat is at RTS. She is a producer and has worked extensively on issues alongside gender, development, and so forth and so on. And without much further to do, I can introduce Ms. Jainaba. Ms. Jainaba Nyangjai, who also is a great personality, especially when it comes to TV. She has done excellent work in the Gambia. Some of you may not know her or know of her work, but you probably have heard about her. And it would be very interesting to hear what she has to say about the Gambia. Imran Dabo is a very well-known a lawyer in the Gambia. He has worked extensively in issues that relate to issues of law, human rights, and a host of other things. So really you have a good group here that will educate you, not only about the Gambia, but also provide you facilities where you can begin to volunteer, possibly, and engage the country in a larger context. Without further ado, let me give it to Ms. Jallo, who will begin, and then we'll go one by one thereafter. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Can we all pray in our own ways, please? Thank you. As Prof introduced me, my name is Khadija Jallo, working with GRTS at the moment. Good morning to everyone, especially my colleagues from Nyangsani Institute and students. I'm very happy to be associated with you today as an inspirational speaker. I may not be one, but I have something to offer. Firstly, I want you to be grateful to God for the opportunity you have as university students. I want all of you to reflect on your educational journey and also recall how the journey began. Not all that began the journey will make it to the end. So if you are lucky enough to make it to the university stage, be grateful. Learning is always challenging. If you want to make it in life, or in order to overcome those challenges, one needs to be disciplined, dedicated, committed to whatever you choose or find yourself. My topic will be on career guidance and counseling. In that vein, no one can choose a career for you without you building interest in it. You have to get a mentor, build interest, then build the capacity to achieve your goal. Sometimes our parents may want you to take up a career, but your interest does not revolve around it. If you accept their choice, you find it sometimes difficult, because if you didn't build interest in it, it would work. So it is important to build interest in whatever you want to do. Even if you make a choice of something that you love to do, along the line, you fail to achieve your expectation in that trade, it's never too late to change. Move on to the next steps. It just cannot frustrate you, say that I choose this thing and now I cannot move on. Looking at the number of students that graduate every year from the university or other higher institutions, government cannot provide them all with jobs. So as a matter of fact, be prepared to be self-employed. Be job givers. As a commerce student that I used to be, time is money. The better you are able to plan and manage time, the more successful you become. So you should not wait. Keep the ball rolling. In any position you are, try to see what next. Because anybody you see at the top there, they started from one. Draw your plans. Think positively. If you are sure of your next meal, you will take life easy. But when you think like a hungry person, you make arrangements to sustain the supply of food. If not, if like the cereals, you go hungry. Saying that, I want to put you through my own experience. My parents were not educated, but my mom had the ambition to educate her children. During our time, in the 80s, back then, at Muslim high school, from Form 1 to Form 3, we do 16 subjects, different from now. Maybe Form 1 you do 7 or 8 subjects. For us, we used to do 16 subjects. Then Form 4, you decide which one to choose. That is out of commerce, arts, and science. I was very intelligent then. It's not that I'm promoting myself, but that was the fact. I used to challenge the boys. So I passed all my subjects. But because I didn't have anybody to guide me, I chose commerce, because by then it was popular. I took commerce, went up to the O level, but I started regretting when I saw those science students were easily enrolled in the School of Public Health and Nursing. But what can I do? I cannot change it. I'm already at Form 5. I finished my O levels. So then I had to go to the sixth form at St. Augustine's High School, which I completed in 1985. You know, by then there was no university in the Gambia. We only had the Gambia College. And those from rich families are opportune to attend universities outside the country. After my sixth form, I worked for more than 2 years at then Palm Grove Hotel, which is now Hamza Barracks, that's mile 2. From there, I was enrolled at the Accountant General Department, where I spent few months. Then I got married. You know the Fullers, they even left me too long. How many Fullers are in the hall here? Can you raise your hand? Ladies, I mean. You see, we are still few, because they don't allow us to be educated. They'll say you should get married early. So, but I tried. After sixth form, work for 3 years, then I got married. Then I found myself, my husband was in Libya. You know, the parents, they always make their choice for you. So I found myself there, a country that I cannot speak Arabic. I cannot do anything as a woman. My husband had to help me to get anything. But then my dedication to be self-reliant motivated me to become a camera woman. Because in Libya, when there is an occasion, only where the women are, they don't want to see a cameraman there. They wanted to see a lady. So this is how I learned to do the camera work. Then I started doing camera work in Libya there. What is important here is that I ensure that I believe in myself and what I was able to deliver, something that empowered me economically, and it was a decent job. Back then in Muslim high school, if somebody had told me I would become a camera woman, I'll give him or her a slap. But as we have a teacher who used to tell us, Mr. Atto, who used to tell us, "Que sera, sera, whatever will be, would be, the future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera, what will be, would be." So this is what happened, because you will not see your future. You will plan to do something, but sometimes destiny will change it. But still, you need efforts to shape that destiny so that you will achieve your goal. So as a camera woman in Libya for 13 years, I made a lot of money. I got my children there, but then I had to come back home. When I came back home, the interest and love I built in this camera work, I decided to continue. But then some of my classmates, some of them are ministers, some of them are this and that, they are top there. But you shouldn't look at who is there, but look at yourself, at what you can deliver and what you can achieve. Because as you can see, our fingers are not equal, so we cannot be equal. What is important is be dedicated to what you want to do, be proud of yourself. Even if people want to look down on you, don't mind them. Just go on. So as a camerawoman, many of my relatives didn't want me to continue, but I told them, no problem, I continue. I love the job, and it is decent. And that time, I think I was the only camerawoman in town. After I was employed by GRS, I spent 7 years in the camera department, being the only camerawoman. I was proud of that. I'm always in the field where men are. By that time, few women, they only look at me, they'll want to join me, but if I engage them a little, they run. But now, there are a lot of girls in town who are holding the camera because they know that what a man can do, a woman can do too. And it is a decent job. So, as I always say, camera is skill work. And here, many people believe that if you are not academically good, take up a skill. There was a program I covered in Buyam when I used to be a camera woman. One of the presenters I was holding the camera. She took example of me saying, look at her. If you are not good academically, take up a skill. All of them clapped. I was angry, but then if you don't know who is standing in front of you, so that is why you should not follow what people are saying. You know yourself because, maybe you heard of Basiru Jawara. But if you see Basiru Jawara, you not say, that wealthy man, he's the one. So people don't sometimes reflect what they are. I had to stop the camera and took the mic. I told them, be academically good, then take up a skill. Because he thought that I can only operate a camera. When I went up to sixth form, if there was an opportunity to go to the university, I would have. But because he doesn't know. So I continued. Why I moved from the camera, during my time at the camera department, I studied banking and finance because I wanted to go to the accounting field. But destiny is still not pushing me there. I wrote 3 times to be moved, no reply. I said, yeah, no problem. I went to the newsroom. I started reporting. I was behind the camera. Now I came in front of the camera, started reporting, doing good. And I know some of those people that used to quote me as, because she is not educated, that's why, or she is not academically good, that's why she is holding the camera. They'll have their answers because they'll see me reporting, you see? So that is who you should be. Have confidence in yourself. Whatever you do, you deliver. So another thing I want to tell you before I conclude is that don't put all your eggs in one basket. As a senior producer now at GRS, I'm also a businesswoman traveling to China to import goods. And still working on the camera business privately as a family business. The boy standing there is my son. So what I'll always advise is when you have interest in anything you want to do, make sure that it is legal. Take it up. Have confidence in yourself, be dedicated, then the sky is the limit. All of us cannot be rich, but anybody will be rich in his or her own way. So I thank you all. jërëjëf su ma waxut rek local language bi duma kontaan because dama nekk koo xam ne su ma laaka tubaab rek dama dee feel ne ba tey jaam laa di séntu bés boo xam ne dañoo binda suñu laaka yi di ko jànga nga xam ne tubaab yi li ñoo dicté dina wàññeeku soo li ma wax rek li si tubaab di gën la naa ñaax rek ngeen jiital yar si looy def rek because soo leen seetee ba ngeen a door school ña ngeen dooroon primary school ñooñu ñeneen ñi drop nañ ñeneen ñi gaañu nañ soo ba tey nañ li ma ko dooree woon rek nañ sant yàlla su dee yow door nga ba egga fi nga egga ba tey nañ continuer di sant yàlla soo jërëjëf ma dem fii rek di gërëm nag Ñang Saane Institute for the opportunity biñ ma jox tey pour ma taxaw seen kanam fii jërëjëf.
To another class, but I would take just a minute to introduce the next speaker, who is Jainaba Nyang. Most of you know her. She is a prominent media person who has spent many, many years working in that sector. She has produced a lot of good works that you've probably seen on GRTS. I'll probably spend the entire hour talking about her accomplishments, but I would rather, for our own purposes today, continue with her work. But before she comes, thank you so much, Khadijatu, for your brilliant presentation, and we do appreciate the thought as well as the actions that underpin your presentation. Without further ado, let's please welcome Ms. Jainaba Nyang.
Thank you very much. And Professor Sen, who is an expert in his own right. Professor Sen, by the way, is a doctor, not a doctor from the hospital, but he holds a PhD, a master's degree, and a bachelor's degree. He has spent most of his time in the United States, teaching at universities, and in Africa, teaching at universities. He is currently the chairman of the Ñang Saane Institute, of which you know we all belong. So thank you very much, Professor Sen, for the introduction. You have been very generous. Thank you so much. Good morning. Or is it morning still? Good morning. Good morning. Good. Right. My name is Jainaba Nyang, and as Professor Sen rightly said, I have spent, I think, my entire life in the media. I had a brief stint when I left school at the Treasury Department as a cashier. But that was just for the holidays, a holiday job it was. Later on, you know, I was employed by Radio Gambia as a presenter. And from then on, I rose through the ranks, went for further studies, came back, and became one of the founding members of GRTS Television. So there you have it. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is about communications and the Ñang Saane Institute. Mr. Sen has briefly talked about the Ñang Saane Institute, but I also think that he has left a lot of details behind. And the communications that I am going to talk to you about today is pegged along the objectives of the Nyangsane Institute. And as I said, the development of a strategy that I have done for the Nyangsane Institute is pegged along the objectives, which are very noble objectives. And that is to provide critical national and international applied research to promote peace and in support of regional and Gambia government sustainable development goals. We also work closely with national institutions like the UTG, for example, build strong links with Miami University in the diaspora, Office of the Ministry of External Affairs, as well as Office of the President's objectives. Provide mentoring and career counseling services for students, like what we are doing now, young faculty, as well as offer seminars, lectures, and training. And that's exactly one of the objectives of the Nyangsane Institute, and this is why we are here today. We also engender a nurturing and balanced international intellectual environment as a regional and national think tank. So that will be some of the objectives of the Nyangsane Institute. I will tell you now about the importance of communication to the Nyangsane Institute. Communications is an important aspect of NSI's work, and implementing a strategy, a communication strategy, is exciting. Communication, as you know, can connect and inspire people to act. Effective communication can bring people together with supporters and donors to exchange information and ideas and influence decision makers. Together, with an effective communication, we can raise funds, stand in solidarity, and take action to improve the lives of people. And that's what we want to do. The communications, or with communications integrated into the NSI's activities and digital developments and innovation at the core, NSI can become responsive to real events and conversations. Let me talk to you now about the media scene in the Gambia. We made the transition to constitutional government in 1997. The 1997 Constitution, as you all know, provides for a number of guarantees for human rights, freedom of speech and the press, as well as the rule of law. In addition, the Constitution mandates the creation of the National Council for Civic Education to enlighten the citizenry about the civic rights and duties, and to promote a democratic culture in the Gambia. Since the beginning of the Second Republic, the country has witnessed a proliferation of media houses, both electronic and print. In recent years, there has been an upsurge in the use of social media. The country's media environment, however, our media environment, is not unlike that of most African countries, government and private owned, and based mainly in the urban area and its surroundings. Community radios exist in the Gambia, and the country receives television signals through satellite channels and cable television. We also have people who serve as stringers. Stringers are correspondents who correspond for other TV and radio stations. Also, We also have, there are private radio stations, all of them commercially oriented, with coverage limited to the urban area of Greater Banjul and immediate surroundings. There are also a number of private-owned print media, most of them publishing daily papers, and various Gambians serve as stringers, as I said, for international media organizations. In recent years, however, we have seen an upsurge in the use of social media, such as Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, Instagram, and so on. The Gambia Press Union is a legally registered union dedicated not only to press freedom and media developments, but also to the developments of the country in general. It serves as an umbrella organization for more houses in the country and has under its umbrella the Association of Health Journalists. Okay. Went on to talk about the GTU, and then there is a network of well-established theater groups in the country with the ability and potential to develop, rehearse, organize, and stage plays for international education and entertainment purposes. What are the strategic objectives of the communication strategy that we have developed for NSI? In line with the NSI's vision, its mission, and the objectives, as I said earlier, the strategy was developed to achieve the following objectives: provide the space for effective integration, or interaction rather, between NSI and various stakeholders, assess and determine key audiences, most influential people, and effective channels for tailoring. Integrate the use of communication tools and platforms in participatory processes, such as planning, implementation, to enhance effective participation, learning, and sharing. Make the best use of communication tools and platforms to engage to effectively enhance participation, learning, and sharing. Integrate communication in our advocacy work for greater impact in our campaigns. So what are the key indicators of the communication aspect? NSI positioned as a top NGO associated with research and justice. Increased awareness and prosperity to support NSI amongst target audiences. Number of people reached with our communications. These are the key indicators with an effective communication strategy for NSI. And then who are we targeting? Our audience is varied, hence the need to know how to engage at their different levels. At the higher levels, we engage with policy audiences who are people and institutions that have a decision-making capacity. These groups or institutions include government, UN agencies, the EU, the diaspora, IMF, World Bank, regional and sub-regional organizations such as ECOWAS, SEALS, other NGOs, and civil society organizations. We target groups and communications with communications that give a clear view of NSI. The organization is about what our positions are and what strength we bring to research. We also piggyback on national events. We want to do that, such as major international celebrations, sporting and cultural events, through posters, billboards, calendars, t-shirts, banners, use traditional communications to disseminate information forge partnerships with artists, including musicians, and organize field visits for journalists. Now, what channels are we going to use, or are we currently using for our communication strategy? This strategy will make maximum use of the national electronic and print media, traditional communicators, as I said earlier, and social media to inform, educate, influence the target audiences, and share best practices. Maximum use will be made of the NSI website, Facebook, WhatsApp, and TikTok, with regular updates of our activities. Through these channels, we will use communication tools. And what are those tools? News releases, newsletters, drama, blogs, SMSs, video production, reports, press kits, brochures, posters, radio and TV programs, press interviews, press conferences, songs, photos, research purposes, situational alerts. And in so doing, we hope to enhance awareness of the role of NSI and what it does to enhance greater public participation in NSI organizational activities, provide greater visibility for the organization, partnerships between NSI and partners, UTG, African Center for Democracy and Human Rights, the diaspora, civil society organizations, NGOs, and the general public, and be further strengthened. These can be further strengthened through enhanced consultations and regular contacts. The transfer or the further strengthening of our education or of our relation, thank you, with the local media will ensure better coverage of our programs and activities for wider dissemination. How is it going to be funded? We hope we can fund ourselves, and we hope to tap other sources of funding from the donor partners so that they can fund this strategy and our activities. And of course, the communications work we will monitor and evaluate to help track relevant indicators identified. Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Nyang Jai, for that very insightful presentation on the NSI and its activities. We are very pleased that you took the time to do so. Without losing much time, let's now introduce Mr. Imran Dabo, who in his own right is a lawyer, a human rights lawyer, and has done a lot of work in the area. I'm sure in his remarks you will be able to tell, or he will tell you, what he has been involved with. He's a very impressive young man, and without further to say, I present you Mr. Imran Dabo.
Thank you very much, Prof. Good afternoon, or is it afternoon now, right? Right, so I'm Imran Dabo. I am a lawyer. Human rights and transitional justice are my areas of focus. I work for an institution also called the Center for the Study of Violence and Reconciliation. I've been with the TRRC and the Ministry of Justice and then civil society as well. I'm a member of the Nyang Sane Institute. My talk will be more on, I think both the two speakers that started have spoken about, first one spoke about careers. And this second speaker has given you an example of an outline of communication, right? And strategic communication development as a career. I am going to talk about more around substance than surface. And you will understand what I mean by that as I go along. But before I start, I want to ask a question. Randomly, perhaps I can point to someone here and ask, why are you in university?
To acquire knowledge and then get a job after.
She says to acquire knowledge and get a job after. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Okay, to acquire knowledge and then also go and excel outside the world. Go and excel outside the world.
I'm sure we had some conversations at some point. Why are you in university?
Yeah, to gain a knowledge, to upgrade myself, to have a better job.
That was to develop knowledge and get a job. To excel and to build yourself. And you said? And to have a better job, right. So now here's the thing with the role of universities in society, right? You look at some of the advanced countries in the world and you find that the most ancient universities in those institutions have been the catalyst. That's basically the production machine of the development of that society, right? So you look at Oxford University, Cambridge University in the UK, and up to now, anything that comes from that university really strongly informs what happens within society. You go to the US, Yale, Harvard, MIT, whatever, you find the same thing. In Islamic history, you are told the development of the Islamic world and the universities that were established in Iraq and all of those areas that the Islamic empire established in. So universities are designed to inform and to help society develop, to advance, right? And the reason why I was asking this question is your generation, you find yourself in a situation where, you've been kind of, whether you are aware of it or not, the information, because people are nurtured by the environment they grew up in, right? And you are kind of nurtured to look at things only from an individual perspective. And from the responses, everybody talked about developing themselves, getting a job, and all of that, right? So it is good. Self-development is, if you develop yourself, then you help to develop the country. But you have to be conscious of the fact that you are not also only in university to develop yourself. You are in university to develop this country, right? So that is where I will start with. How many of you watch Marvel movies? Hands up, please. Right. Few, right? I know a lot of Gambians say, it's fiction, I don't watch it. Right? The reason why I say, Loki, right? Thor's brother. And what does he say all the time when he has to do something? I am seized with glorious purpose. So he always tells, everywhere he goes, he tells people that he has this very glorious purpose, and his purpose is always somehow to transform the world, right? To change the world. That is usually his purpose, right? What I am trying to talk to you about is that as individuals, young people growing up in this country, going through university, developing yourselves, you should have a glorious purpose. And at this point where you are in university, next stage is career, right? You need to now figure out what is your glorious purpose in this country for yourself and for the entire world, right? We all aspire to be some great person, Nelson Mandela, Albert Einstein, somebody that we've seen have achieved that glorious purpose. So it is now that you start to think about that. But then the point of my talk is this, that you are also within this society and environment that has become this how-to culture. And I've engaged with young people, developing their CVs. And sometimes I've also interviewed students, or young people who have just graduated from university, right? And they bring a CV. And you find I've done this 5 pages, 6 pages of a CV, right? So many different activities. And I'm thinking at 25, if you have done all of these things, then I'm saying to myself that you have never spent enough time in any one of them to develop yourself enough for that experience to have been useful, right? So when somebody comes and tells you that you need to develop your CV, and this is what I'm saying, you live in this environment of how to. You go on YouTube, how to get a job, how to become successful, how to be rich. These are shortcut kind of ideas of thinking that they can tell you how to do something, right? And that is how people tend to now start developing their CVs. You spend one day in a lecture, you spend another day in one organization, then you leave that, you move to another one, you do a little bit, and then you list your CV with all the institutions that you've gone to. But you have not, in terms of the substance, you have not developed yourself to the point that you are qualified enough to do anything meaningful, to produce anything meaningful, right? And so that is the point that I'm talking about. And I will talk about a few books that I've read. The reason I'm doing that is that I am hoping that you will go and find some of them, or at least other books that interest you, right? I will talk about philosophy because anybody who lives through lives without any coherent philosophy of where I am, where I want to be, who am I, then you are going to struggle through life. You're like a leaf blowing in the wind, right? Whatever idea comes, you go with that for a little bit, then something else. So I will talk about that. I'll talk about 1 or 2 great men, not to talk about anything in substance, just to highlight that, this is what they have done to achieve what they achieved. That is basically what I'm trying to do. But let's start with my first book. It's called American Gods. It's a novel, right? The author is called Neil Gaiman. Now in this book, and it's a series on Amazon Prime, for some of you that watch. Now it's been turned into a series. In American Gods, Neil Gaiman highlights, so he takes these gods that we believe in, if it's Allah, Thor, Anansi, there's, West African gods, and all these different kinds of gods that people used to believe in the ancient times, and which nowadays, if I look at social media, we say, oh, religion is so backward, this is so backward. So for us, this idea of imagined gods is nonsense, right? We are more civilized, we are more advanced, we are more intellectual. That is how we look at life now. But Neil Gaiman now also brings another group of gods in his book that are more modern. So technology, he represents technology with a god, he calls him Mr. World. The other one in media, and the other one he calls, I can't remember the name, so it's desire and those kinds of things. So my thing is, let me ask again a question, any one of you. If we say in the Gambia, like we look at somebody and say, he is such a religious person, what do you see in somebody that you say he's religious? Sir?
A religious person is someone who, in his conduct, let's say, do or act in a way that is respectful, and then avoid doing things that society, let's say, consider as things that are bad. So in that way, we say that individual is a religious individual.
Okay. Yeah. Does anybody agree with, or does you? Okay. Help me, please. What will you see in somebody that will make you believe that this person is religious?
Maybe the character and then the conduct. Sometimes we also consider the dress code. Sometimes, yeah.
And so the point I'm making, so we are talking, you guys talked about good, but I'm talking about religious or faithful, believing, a believer. What will give you the idea that this person is a believer in God, right? Or is a religious person that believes in this particular God? Let's say a Muslim. If you see a Muslim, what will convince you is a good Muslim? So let's give him and see. What do you see and you say is a good Muslim?
His words and actions should be in line, conformity with the religious teaching.
His words and actions should be in line with the religious teachings. Right. You want to add? No? Yes.
I will take it from one of the prophet's hadith. He said, if you see a man frequenting the mosque, you can testify that he's a believer. Yeah.
So if you see a man frequenting the mosque, you know that he's a believer. So if I see a young man on TikTok from morning to evening, what do I believe? He's a believer as well, right? This is the idea Neil Gaiman was trying to point out. That even though we say these ideas of religious and belief is outdated, and we, if you see somebody going to the mosque all the time, he's an extremist. We are extremists when we obsess on social media, like on technology. And that is why he created these two groups of gods. So he's highlighting that even though we've forgotten these other gods, we have not stopped believing. We have just shifted our belief from certain entities to other entities, right? And so his idea is that we are now believers in social media, in technology, right? In material, right? And the reason why this is important is that if you feel enlightened and you feel that you basically are free of those influences, right? Primitive thinking. But you are being influenced by something else that you really don't realize is influencing you. You have you're creating another problem for yourself. And I know all of us here probably have social media, TikToks, and all of these handles. And these things have consequences. And I then will now talk about another book, which is called Surveillance Capitalism, right? It talks about the fact that what this attention that we have. So the same devotion that we used to have with the gods, right? Prayer every 5 times a day. We pray, we fast, we do all of that. That commitment that we used to have. Now that commitment is every 10 minutes we look at our phones, right? So we have that same devotion to this social media. But he's saying that this other book, Surveillance Capitalism, is telling you that these social medias are controlled by somebody, right? And they are intended for a purpose. And that purpose is to commodify your attention, right? As long as you are on social media, TikTok, Facebook, or whatever, somebody is getting money out of it, right? Somebody is also taking away then your time. Is tracking whatever you do, whatever you say is recorded somewhere, right? Whatever you share, whatever you like, it's being recorded and it's also being sold for money. That is not coming into your pocket. The whole point of that is that you cannot be a consumer, only a consumer in a world that is capitalist. If you are going to spend time on anything, as the students that are in university looking for a career, it needs to be something that will be contributing to your development, not something that will contribute to somebody's economic advancement at your own cost, right? That is the point. So one of the things also that this social media does, this author talks about, is that it makes us create doppelgangers, they are called. And this is another book. It's written by the lady called Naomi Klein, a brilliant writer. But she talks about the fact that social media, as it is structured, forces us to create personalities that are not us. Your Facebook profile, you think it is you. It is not you, right? It is a representation of you. It's almost your date of birth, your mom, your dad, your sisters. Everything about you is there. But it is not you. This is a personality that you create that has to fit with what other people want to see, right? That's what we do on social media. You don't post things that people will tell you, oh, you are so stupid, or you are so ugly. You don't do that. You take your nicest photos and you post them on social media. You take your best achievements in life and you put them on social media. You have a degree now, you take the photo with the hat and you put it on social media. So it now forces you to create this character that is almost you, but not you, right? And what happens is that while you are creating that character, you start to pick up attitudes and values from that character, because what people expect you to be like on the social media is now what you also start to try to be like in your real life. You change your identity totally, sometimes without even realizing it. And this is a big, big, big challenge, I think, especially for Africans and African young people, because all these platforms are not created by us, right? They are created from outside with values and ideas that are not our values and our ideas. And so I'm not saying don't use social media. I'm saying be conscious of these things that I'm trying to point out. For the interest of time, I'll jump to the next book, right? There are consequences to this thing. Another book that I've read, very interesting, it's called The Narcissism Epidemic, right? What the author is saying is that this whole now attention and focus that we have put in social media is now making us narcissistic, right? You start to feel like you are such an important person because you have 1,000 likes for every photo that you put on social media, right? And any idea you put, people like it. Any kind of thing you put in, people like it. And what happens then is that when somebody else challenges an idea you have, you get angry, right? Right? You are famous, you are important now, nobody can question you. You start to become narcissistic, right? But narcissism also then makes you want validation for everything that you do, right? You require people to tell you, hey, that was such a superb speech that you gave, or that was such a great achievement that you made, right? This is a very nice car. That is you see what I'm pointing at, right? It makes you do that. And you know social media more than I do probably. It's about trends, right? Something trends today, tomorrow it changes to something else. If your focus, if what the validation you are getting is from a trend, and that trend changes, you no longer get the validation that you used to get. I talked to somebody last night actually, and she was telling me that I used to follow these people, but they're so boring now. Right? Why? Because what they used to do is repetitive. At some point, something else more interesting comes, and then people forget about you. Right? So the obsession with social media, it does not develop you. It develops the persona that you put on social media. It does not develop you as an individual. Right? And then when that happens, what happens? Another book comes, the same author that wrote The Narcissism Epidemic, she also wrote another book based on research she'd done for a number of years. And it's called iGen. That is the internet generation, basically, she was talking about, right? But Generation Z, 1995 to about 2012, the people that were born within that time. They were born into this age of social media and smartphones, right? And she did her research, and she's saying that they are the unhappiest generation on the planet, right? One of the reasons she says is because they get their validation from social media. When that validation, and they become vulnerable also because of the bullying, all of the stuff that comes with social media and the trends and all of that. So it has created more people with more depression, younger people committing more suicide and all of that, right? But you need to be aware of these things again, right? So the entire point is that how you engage with social media sometimes tends to make you forget about you, the person that is living in reality. And for you that are now in this area of trying to now pursue a career, because that is why you are in university, it's the last stage of learning, advanced education, right? From there, you're thinking about a career. You cannot build a career from social media. So it's not about going to an event and posting it online. It's about you putting in the effort to understand what you are. So let's say you go to a conference about transitional justice. You post that, right? You attended different things. They've given you these certificates. That is not the point. Go and do more in-depth, deeper thinking, deeper learning about transitional justice. How does it relate to your country? How can you use it to advance yourself, to advance your country? As I said, it is not only about you and developing yourself. If your environment, the Gambia, is not developed, your development means very little, right? So, I think one thinks about is what virtues do you have? Or what virtues are you trying to pursue? What virtues are you trying to achieve? What are your values in life, basically? It's not to be recognized, to be famous, to be rich. Those things are things that can easily and very quickly go away. And if you do research, there's a very famous Canadian influencer that was on Twitter or YouTube, and now she basically lost everything and wrote some books about how her experience went. Find it and read it. I'll conclude very shortly. Yes, but what positive changes do you want to make to yourself, to your country? You are in university. The reason why Gambia built a university is not to just get you a job. It's for you to help us build the country. what are you intending to do to help this country? You need to ask yourself that. How do you contribute to building it to something better, to something greater? You need to think about that, right? But now let me talk about philosophy as well. Because as I said, if you don't have principles or direction, sense of direction, what is your philosophy, what grounds you, what motivates you? You basically live in the wind, right? So, famous Aristotle talks about virtues and all of that stuff, right? So he's saying that the the highest human good, which we aspire to, is to be, to flourish, to achieve the highest, basically, good in the world. So he describes it, the translation, as flourishing, to have achieved maximum happiness, right? And he's saying that happiness can only be achieved through moral, intellectual excellence, right? And you can only achieve moral and intellectual excellence through practice and deliberate action. Deliberate here doesn't mean, it means intentional, but it also means thinking. When I'm saying I did this deliberately, it means that I put some thinking into it before I did it, right? So he's saying that you need to have moral, or you need to pursue moral integrity and excellence, and intellectual integrity and excellence, if you want to achieve the highest achievements in life. But how are you going to do those things? You need to put them in practice, right? You need to practice discipline, going to work on time, respecting people, doing all the right things that you need to do, honesty and all of those things, right? Those are moral, and he has a list of moral virtues that he listed in his book. He also talks about intellectual excellence. And I'll conclude with, this is the last part of my talk, right? He talks about intellectual excellence also. So these are also critical thinking, seeking knowledge in depth and all of that. The point being, you need to build yourself in substance intellectually. Critical thinking is key. You don't follow trends on social media. This is how people dress, that's how I dress. This is how, this is how people speak, this is how I'm speaking. Car. These days I'm wondering what is car. But we all say it, and some of us don't even know what it means. You need to be an individual. You need to develop yourself. That is the entire point of it. So to conclude, what the few points that I want to clarify and say is that the world around you is pushing you towards creating artificial characters of yourself, that the world can admire. But for real success to come, it has to come from substance, not just the surface appearance, right? It comes with the pursuit of knowledge. It comes with the pursuit of discipline and exercise of discipline. You are the architects of your future and the future of our country, your country. And that future should be built on foundations of real self-development. Being a social media influencer, when Gambia needs scientists and doctors and teachers and lecturers, is not going to cut it for you or for the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Imran, for that very thoughtful presentation. Very, very exciting. And I'm glad that we could introduce to the students some level of criticality about the whole subject area. What we're going to do very briefly is to have questions and answers. Questions you may have for our audience, and they will respond very briefly. And thereafter, we will have another panel, very brief, talking about our introduction to social media and the role it plays, and more specifically, its relationship to students at the university. So we still have a few things to do, but we'll keep it very brief, if possible. Are there any questions? Questions, comments? Any comments or questions?
Thank you so much for coming to have an interface with the students of the University of the Gambia. We really appreciate your coming, and thank you for those profound presentations. And I would like to ask Mr. Imran, but first I want to ask if he was a teacher, because the methodology that he used here was actually superb. I think the field of education needs your service as well. Yeah, so you talked about the fact that we need to live up to our values and our principles as Africans or Gambians in particular. because the posts that we make on social media do not actually represent who we are in real life. I want to ask, because sometimes most of the young people seek international education and appointment. And in most cases, when you apply to be part of those international communities, they actually ask for your social media handles because they want to see what you've been doing. So I want to hear a comment from you with respect to that.
Right. So if you remember, I said, I'm not saying don't use social media, but I am saying that when you use it for your own purpose, right? For something that benefits you. So, of course, we know the reality is when you seek for a job now, you are going to be asked about your social media handles. But what I'm saying is that that social media handle, whatever you put there, you need to be now conscious that the person or the platform, Facebook or TikTok or Twitter, is trying to make you put in something that is dramatic or exaggerated or, right? But if you putting anything there, make sure that if you say you've achieved, let's say, a certificate on transitional justice, make sure you've done the actual research also and reading to back that certificate. Don't just put the certificate up to get the job, and when you get the job, you don't know what to do. So whilst you are putting your achievements online, make sure you are also in the background putting in the effort to build your knowledge on that specific topic. Regarding whether I was a teacher, I was not, but I'm a lawyer. We are expected to do this advocacy, and I'm also an advocate. But I am not a teacher. I apparently need a master's degree before I can lecture here. I hope one day that I'll do that, and then I'll...
Thank you, Imran. Any other questions? Okay, we'll now invite our colleagues from the Nyangsana Institute who have worked really hard in creating a document that would be of great importance to all of you. I won't say much about it. I will have them do it themselves. Do you want to?
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for coming here. To our guests, too, on behalf of the union, we want to thank all of you for being here, especially on time as well, and we apologize for the delay that has been caused. And for the students that are here, we also thank you very much, because honestly, it's been quite really difficult as a union to have students attend activities like this. So to sacrifice your time and to be here, that is very important, and we thank you so much for that. But moving forward, as a union, it is part of our core mandates to partner with institutions and organizations that will enhance the welfare and academic of students. And that is why, as the University of the Gambia Students' Union, we partnered with NSI, which is the Nyangsana Institute for Social Research and Justice, which mostly focuses on policy initiation and development, or to influence the policies of the Gambia, and to also do awareness and raise campaign, or make awareness campaign on issues that are pertinent to the people of the Gambia, to offer also mentorship and career development for young students of the Gambia, and to also promote peace and interfaith dialogue. As Professor Sen mentioned, that part of the people that, or the people that the institution is named after is Professor Suleiman Nyang and also Professor Sane, who were key during their lifetime in the promotion of interfaith dialogue. So it is a key component in the institute to promote interfaith dialogue, but also the institute focuses on promoting the ideals and the issues that are affecting women and people and marginalized communities, especially persons with disabilities. So the union, having recognized all of these values, which are consistent with what we do as an organization or a student body, that is the highest governing body of the University of the Gambia, we see it ideal to partner with this institute. And that's why we have an MOU here that is going to be signed. And the MOU will focus on at least 5 or 6 major areas. And that is panel discussions. As we know, when we're organizing a panel discussion, it is important to have experts that would speak to the people, that is the individuals that are present here. And having recognized the expertise that the institute has in the scholars, the renowned scholars that it has, an example of that is the speakers that we have here, and others that are either in the diaspora or within the Gambia that are retired professionals with their PhDs rather. We see it important that as a union we organize panel discussions on important issues where we'll invite these people to speak to us on issues of good governance, transitional justice, human rights, and so on and so forth in all the areas of study. But also we have capacity building trainings. You realize that right now, UTGDA is having its capacity building training, and the Union too embarks on issues like that, where we help build the capacity of students, either in public speaking or in debate, or in understanding issues within your field that you will not learn within the classroom. So the Union too, together with NSI, intends to do that. But also offering mentorship programs, as we said, because there are many, many professionals within the institute that are willing to be mentors to students of the University of the Gambia who are able and who also have the expertise. If you are working on a research project, or if you're working on a topic, or if you're working to develop yourself personally, either in understanding certain concepts like socialism or Pan-Africanism, things that will require you to be guided by somebody who has in-depth understanding of that, the Institute also provides, or the partnership that we are having here will provide those kinds of mentorship programs as well. And the seminars like we have here, the Institute and the Union will ensure that we organize such seminars moving forward, and to ensure that we have a wider audience and coverage, because it will be important when we're organizing seminars. It is for the students, so the students have to be present. And that is also another focus of collaboration that we have with NSI, that is the Union and NSI. And the last one, which is the promotion of marginalized communities. As we are students of the University of the Gambia, there are people within our midst that are marginalized and that are also having certain difficulties either in their mobility or in their eyesight, and the partnership will also ensure that we help those individuals. If you look at recent dispatches that were released by the SOSA Education and Research Ministry through the Information and Communications Minister, there were a few individuals that were helped with either tuition fee or also to use a laptop because they were visually impaired and they wouldn't be able to have access to the facilities that we have as students or as general students. So this is also another area that we'll be focusing on. So essentially, this is what the partnership covers, and as we move forward as a body that is partnering, we will ensure that we roll out, if it's necessary, application forms, either through Google Forms, where students will apply and to show in their interest, and that way we will have everybody on board. That way we will all develop collectively. That way, as the writer Aliba would call it, that we choose to live for a cause that is greater than us, because that is what we are all intending here, to live for a cause that is greater than us. And if you listen to the speech that Imran gave, that's essentially what he was trying to put across. So thank you so much, and now we will have Professor to sign the MOU. Yeah, you don't. Our president is on the way.
I'd like to. Is that enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We want to take this occasion to thank all of you for coming. This is just the beginning, and it is hoped that in future. But before I conclude, I'd like to thank our panelists who did a great job identifying important things that are of interest to you. I would also like to thank our interns. Mohammed is one of them. We have Ms. DaCosta over there. And we have, where's Mr. Just John over there. John is also one of our interns. So we would hope that in future, when you wish to do something outside of the university, that you consider doing something more practical, or something as practical as possible. So without further ado, we thank our media person, Mr. Jallo, and all of you for coming. And we hope that in future, you will be attending our programs. So thank you very much, and we appreciate you all for coming.
Everybody.